Okay, I think this is recording. I haven't got the remote with me today to check, so otherwise I'll just be talking to myself for the next 20 minutes and, you know, nobody else will know because it won't be recorded, so why not, right? Anyway, assuming that this is recording and everything's going well on the recording itself, I thought I'd finally put up another video, I guess, video vlog as we call them. Right, so we've still been very busy, but I realized that in my last video, I forgot to mention our trip to Disneyland. So we went to Tokyo Disneyland, had a great time. Oh, do I do that? Yes, I do. Had a great time in there. Stayed at the Hilton. There's a Sheraton Hilton or something nearby. And we also visited Legoland. Maybe I've got some pictures that will be on Facebook or something else like that. But anyway, that was actually a little while ago, but I forgot to mention it until now. Apart from that, let's see, I'm back to marking papers, getting weekly homework and so on, which is fine. And, you know, I've been, as you do, looking for any sort of English problems that keep on occurring. You know, if you only ever make a mistake once and never make it again, then it doesn't really need to be corrected because probably you already know that it was wrong. Just a slip up, right? So those ones don't really matter. But problems that keep on coming up are ones that have to be dealt with. One of the most, well, there's so many, but a common one might be word form, especially with the students I'm teaching. Hang on just one moment. Oh. Thank you. Especially with the students I'm teaching at the moment. This was where different words have different forms, whether they're an adjective or a noun or whatever. So for example, one that I've seen on a few essays in the past is the sentence, she is very kindness. Now obviously that's a mistake. You can't be very and then a noun. You have to throw an adjective, which should be she's very kind instead of kindness. So yes, so that type of error does come up, and those sorts of things, especially if it's a high frequency word, you know, I will point out and say, okay, you've got this word. If I see anybody at all write she is very kindness, then the whole class will explode, or something along those lines. Never actually said those words, but nonetheless, these things have to be pointed out. Now, that is, you know, that's for students who come there wanting to learn English, wanting to get better. These are actually English majors that I'm teaching. And, you know, the English vocabulary is huge, so needless to say, they're not going to know every word form for every word. These things, you know, you pick up as you go along. So I feel perfectly fine correcting them in those cases. And in fact, they expect me to correct their English to make it better and teach them the right way. Now, if you're an English teacher, if you're teaching a class and correcting English, good for you. That seems to be, in my opinion, I'm just putting these on, we're just coming out of the tunnel. In my opinion, that seems like, I don't often use the word heroic, but yes, heroic. On the other hand, people who pick up people who either are or aren't native speakers of English, who, in their opinion, have made an English mistake. When they're just trying to communicate, they're just having a conversation, particularly on the internet, trying to communicate, as you do, and then somebody goes and tears apart their English and says, oh wow, English is not your first language, is it? Or, oh, you know, your English is so bad, I just couldn't understand that. That's wrong. Usually, 9 times out of 10, anybody can understand the sentence. You're just saying that there's a mistake in a very rude way. And occasionally, this is my favorite, the person trying to correct the English is, in fact, wrong. Now, one of my favorite words for this, where people think they're being smart, think they know how to use it, and actually usually don't, is the word whom. You know, to whom shall I send this letter? And so on. Now, there's a certain group of people who are dedicated to using whom and to correcting people when they, in their own mind, they don't use it properly. Well, for one thing, as far as conversational English is concerned, the current state of English is that we can use who instead of whom, and it's not an error. So straight up, it's not going to be mistaken. But when it comes to using whom, we use it in a very specific way. And these people will often make a mistake because they don't quite understand the difference between clauses. So, if we have a relatively simple sentence, I gave it to him. You know, I have an apple, he wants an apple, I gave it to him. In that case, him is, well, in English, let's see, would that be dative case? It's the indirect object, you know, the I gave it. I is the subject, gave is the verb, and it is the object, being the apple, obviously, to him. Now we're using the word him there. The rule you might have been taught about whom is that whenever you could write him, you can instead write whom. So we just insert him in there, and then, yes, it makes sense, so let's use whom. Fine. Then we get to, let's try another sentence. The king will give the sword, the king will give the sword to whomever is the fastest. Okay, so you can kind of imagine the situation there. The king's found himself with a surplus of swords, and he's looking for different ways to get rid of the swords. So he's decided to have, you know, a bit of a race, a bit of fun, and people who are particularly fast in the race, they can get a sword. And why not? Everybody's happy in that situation. Absolutely no problem. Except for grammarians, who will say, wait a minute, did you just use the word whomever? The king will give the sword to whomever is the fastest. Oh dear. Because then, that is the mistake. This is a case. This is, if you said whoever, then people will mistakenly correct you and say, oh, that should be whomever. But no, whom does not belong there. Do you know why? Do you? Oh, well, if you already know, then, well done. But, assuming you said no, Robert, I don't know, and in fact I'm a little bit concerned now and I would like to know. Well, assuming that's exactly your reaction, the fact is that that sentence has 2 clauses. It has, the king will give the sword. There we go, the king will give the sword. That's the simple subject, verb, object. It's future tense, but you know, we're doing okay. 2, and then we've got whomever is the fastest. Well, that clause is the one that contains the whoever or whomever. Now, in that clause, let's see, how it fits. Whomever is the fastest, him is the fastest. Oh dear. Now you see the error of your whomever ways. On the other hand, if I said, he is the fastest, oh, that sounds so pleasant to my ears. It's almost like an angel has farted in my ear. That's how pleasant it is, I imagine. I'm not talking from experience there. Okay, so that clause, it should be, he is the fastest, and thus, whoever is the fastest. The difference being, whom or who takes the case that fits the clause that it's in. You can't just cobble together a whole sentence and ignore that different clauses exist. Oh, okay. Well, we're almost out of time now. I'll save my ranting for another time. But in the meantime, if you're out there and you hear somebody use the word who when you think maybe it should have been whom, just ask yourself, does it fit the clause? Okay, now how can I turn this video off while I'm driving?